Today we're going to talk about another principle of design. We're going to talk about contrast. Contrast is when you have two things that are like total opposites sitting right next to each other. On your worksheet, you can write this down under the question that says, what is contrast? I'll write it up here on my paper. Contrast is when two opposite things are right next to each other. So when two opposites are placed next to each other. So to start us off, you have three different types of contrast. You have shape, and you have two more. The second one is color, and the third is texture. You can write these three down under the question, how can you show contrast? You have three boxes on your worksheet. For each box, you're going to draw an example as I draw mine. First, we're going to start with shape. Just like we learned in Unit 1 with the elements of art, shape, I'm going to start off by drawing a circle. And I already have a shape, but to show contrast, I want to fill that in to make it pop out as much as I can. Black and white are not color, so we're only using black and white for this section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some black into the middle, and you can see how dramatic that is, how you can see the black circle on top of the white background. The contrast, the opposite of it, is what makes it so powerful. You can copy this for your example for shape. I'm going to go back a few steps, and I'm going to start with color. So this is the example in your box labeled color. I chose a color. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw a big circle. And I'm going to fill it in. I already have a pretty good contrast going on between the blue circle and the white background, but I want to make it pop even more. So what I can do is I can look at my color wheel, and I can look at where my color is chosen, and I could go directly opposite of that. Maybe I'll change it just a little bit because I want to see some red. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the white background with a red background, and this is going to make my blue circle pop out even more. The power of contrast in this composition is strong because the colors are near opposites. If I showed you an example of something that's not as opposite, it's not going to be as strong. This still shows contrast, but it's just not as strong as the one before because the colors are almost opposites. The last example I want to show you is texture. So again, you can see that we were going to be using a circle for this one, but my circle's not going to be drawn. I actually already have some examples. First, I'm going to pull this guy up. This is a sea urchin. This is something you find in the ocean. I think this is an example of really good texture. What I did was I cut it in half because I want to use the opposite texture for the other half. So I thought, what's the opposite of spiky and jagged? And I thought clean and smooth. So I chose a metal sphere. So I still have a circle. If I take my drawing utensil and trace it, I still have my circle, but it's no longer a line or a shape. It's using texture to communicate a circle. I could also change the size of some things. The idea here is that this composition still shows a strong characteristic of texture because they're opposite textures. Go ahead and finish up all three of your examples. If you have any questions, raise your hand and let me know. If you finish early, I know a lot of us didn't get our worksheet done yesterday for the Principle of Design balance. If you need to go back and finish your balance worksheet, go ahead and do that. If you're done with both, you can go onto sketch.io or FreeDraw.